Good morning. Some coffee in. Hi everyone. Good morning. This is Stacy. Um, Walking in my shoes this morning, and we're loving my veteran. Gonna get all the important stuff out of the way. We're not paid professionals. If you need help, please reach out and get it. It is there for you, but please reach out and get it. And again, all the information on these videos are copyrighted to Loving My Veteran. So, good morning, everyone. I'm gonna have another sip of coffee and wake up. We had a wonderful, wonderful weekend. It was eye-opening. It was much needed. Um, Carl and I got away. We went to Savannah, and morning, Melissa. Morning, Sarah. We ran away and we went to Savannah. Did a few things, and while we were there, we did what I've been wanting to do forever. We had an opportunity to go speak to some of the homeless. There was all kinds of activity going on in Savannah, and these people are just sitting here like they're morning, fam. They're just sitting there like nobody sees them. Morning, chow. So it was very eye opening, and we were blessed. And we went to Veterans Village, and I don't know how many of you saw the little interview we did. Um, it's a bunch of tiny houses that were built partially by the Nine Line Foundation. And it helped get some veterans off the street, and they've completed a couple of phases, and they're eventually going to have 70 there, and they're probably 20 little tiny houses. They're precious. So while we were there, we talked to Mr. Jones, is what he asked me to call him, and he is a veteran, and so that led us to today's topic. It's on checking out. And I think when we think about checking out, we think about it all away from the suicide, and that's the last stage of checking out. But there are veterans that check out, there are caregivers that check out, there are spouses that check out, and I think at some point in our life and in our daily walk, we all check out. We all tend to check out for a few minutes and have to reboot, because it's more than just, morning Sunny, it's more than just being part of the thing. It is truly checking out. So when I was talking to Mr. Jones, I asked, one of the questions we asked were, how did you become homeless? And he said that when he got out of the service and went home to his wife and kids and family, he just couldn't do it. And so there were days that he would check out for a little bit of time, and there were days that he'd check out for days. And then there was the point he just checked out and left, and it became easier to live on the streets. And he lived on the streets of Savannah for almost 10 years. Park benches, under the stairs, wherever. But he did it because he couldn't deal with acknowledging the fact that he had PTSD, dealing with the real world relationships, dealing with the problems at home. And so all of that environment created him or caused him to check out. And I think that we can all relate to that. We don't even have to relate that to the veteran side. Relate that to your own life. How many days do you just, good morning, Nikia, do you just get tired and you need to or want to check out? For those of you who saw my Walking My Shoes on Friday, you know that I was feeling overwhelmed. Some of you that talked to me over the weekend knew exactly how overwhelmed I became. And I'm going to be honest, I was ready to check out. I was like done. I was tired. I was emotionally drained. The difference is that I got back up on that horse, and I had the support structure in place that let me get back on that horse and go forward, and I am no longer checked out. I am fully engaged. And what happens is that you get caught in that place where checking out becomes easier. And that's why so many marriages with veterans fail. That's why our veterans don't get the care they always need to get, because they're fighting and fighting and fighting, or we're fighting for them for the care they need. And you get tired and you check out. Um, I don't know how many of y'all saw Aaron's post this morning, but I am super excited for Aaron Musgrove. They are finally going to get Ron tested for PTSD. It has been 8 years in the making. They lost his service record. And there were days and in this 8 year period of time that I'm sure Erin wanted to check out and just stop fighting, but she didn't. She picked up the pieces, she went forward. Ron ended up getting hit by a car and had a horrible injury because of his PTSD. He ran out in traffic and got injured severely. And then not only did they have to fight for his VA benefits, they had to fight to prove that he was in certain places in service because they literally lost his service record. I'm not talking about his medical records now, I'm talking about the whole service record. And so she never checked out. She may have checked out momentarily, but she always checked back in. And that's where we have to go with this. There are things that come up in our life that cause us to check out. Um, y'all know. Good morning, Evelyn. Y'all know that I don't. I share my story. I'm like an open book, and Carl laughs at me and says you tell people way too much. But I think you have to know that what I go through is real, and what we all go through and experience is real. So when I got sick and all this stuff started to come out, and there was a period of time, y'all know this, or most of you, if you're new to this, you don't know this, but most of you who've been here a while know this, that last year I seriously contemplated suicide 3 times. Seriously. I was checking out. I didn't see a way out. And I think that we all tend to get to a point where we check out. And you get afraid to go get the next diagnosis, and you get afraid to go to the next doctor. And I think for our veterans, they're afraid to go a lot of times to the next place for help because it just means, as I jokingly tell Carl, more letters to my alphabet soup. How many more letters can you diagnose me with before we have to start reusing letters of the alphabet, you know? And it causes you to go through this depression, and you feel like you want to check out. But the difference is that I can check back in, and I got back on the horse and I started riding again. And that's where we have to be. And I look at this veteran who had been on the streets for 9, 10 years after he had checked out, and he is now in this tiny house. And for him, it was a hand up. It was, you don't have to be one of the 22 a day. You don't have to be the one to commit suicide. You can go forward, and we are checking you back into life. And I think that's where we all are. How many times in our relationships have we've all said, I'm done. Why am I still here? I'm done. I'm done with this relationship. I'm done fighting this battle. I'm done feeling like I'm the only one who gives a damn. I just feel done. Right? And the difference is those of us that are here are making the difference because we're here and we're actively engaged even on days we want to check out. That's what this community does. We provide that sense of, you got this. But we all go through those periods, and it's normal. So we have to learn to check back in. You know, I remember early on when I started looking for resources, there weren't any. There weren't any. These were the negativest bunches of Nellies I had ever been around. And I didn't even know them personally. Like, they were so negative. They were like, well, leave. Girl, not even every other day am I done. I'm done many times throughout the day. Okay, so if you're on the every other day plan, you are way ahead of me. But we go looking for help, and we find all this negativity, and you fall into this vat of negativity and self-pity. And I think we all do it. We all fall into this vat of negativity and self-pity. We all tend to do this. We all go through times where we struggle. The difference is, when can you pick yourself back up? And you're right. You've got to learn, Sarah, to give yourself grace. But it is so easy to get caught up in that downward spiral. And that's why y'all know I preach the victory wall. I preach the victory wall all the time, because sometimes what brings you out of that spiral is knowing that you've had good moments in your day. Knowing that no matter how down you felt, you had good moments in your day. You know, again, I go back to me, and this is not all PTSD. This is about all of us. All of us. We all feel this way. People in general feel this way. It is time for me to restart. I have 2 days to finish my paramedic research. I can't even believe I'm saying this. 2 days. And y'all know I can't get back on a truck, so I was like, oh, I'm just going to let the license go. Why am I going to struggle with 40-hour refresher and doing all this crap and spending the money? And I sat back and you know, I talked to Nakia and Michelle, obviously, about this, and they're like, get your license, Igmo. Carl, like, get your license, Stacy. Don't be stupid. So I'm getting my license, but for me, it was like, oh, well, you know what? If I don't get my license, then that gives me an excuse. I don't have to blame it on this alphabet soup that I have going on. I can just say, I don't have a license anymore. I don't have to deal with it. So it doesn't bring me back to those wishful times where I felt like I was better, right? And that I could get back on a truck because my license is still good, so let me be wishful. It's not like that. I was afraid to do that because I was afraid that I'd go back to that moment of, well, why can't you just get on an ambulance? And there's a lot of times that I'll say to Carl when we'll be arguing, or I'll just get frustrated and I'll say, you know what, I'm done with this. I'm done. If I'm going to be sick and I'm going to have to go through this anyway, then God, just let me go get back on an ambulance doing what I used to do. And if I die in the process, who cares? I mean, literally, that has become my mindset at times. So this was a battle for me. And I put on my big girl panties and I got up and I'm halfway through my research hours, thank you, Jesus. And I'll have them done hopefully this afternoon. But you have to get out of this funk. And you can't just live in a life where you're checked out. That's why your marriages fail. That's why your relationships fail. That's why you're not getting better health care if you're the veteran. That's why you're not looking further, because you're afraid that when you get this diagnosis, it's another thing that's defective, but it's not. When I started getting the alphabet soup, as I lovingly call it now, when I started getting the alphabet soup, is it like somebody kicked the wind out of me? Yeah. But the difference was, now I know what I have and I can go on. I have a goal to reach. And so I think that even in our relationships, wherever we are, when they check out, we have to be able to understand, one, it's not us that does it. Checking out is a personal choice. Checking out is a place they go personally. Okay? It is very, very hard for us to accept the fact we can't fix the checking out. We can't fix the checking out. We can encourage, we can love, we can say, all right, this is what we need to do and I'm here for you. But mentally, they have to grasp the checking out. And yeah, Stephanie, I know where you're dealing with. You know, the refusing of another diagnosis. It's tough, but it doesn't, your diagnoses don't define you unless you allow them. Your diagnoses don't define you unless you allow them. I don't let people come to me and say, hey, here's Stacy, she has this and this and this letter and this letter of the alphabet, and they're my alphabet soup out. You might as well get me a bowl, and I can't stand it. I little ABC soup. Okay, and just say, here, this is who she is. It's not who I am. Okay, it's taken me a long time to understand it's not who I am. You know, I know that Michelle battles with MS, and she's made that very clear that she battles with MS. But MS does not define her. She is Michelle. She is my bestest friend and my, as we call it, sister from another mister, another mother. But that's who she is. Okay, her MS doesn't define her. Just like their PTSD doesn't define them. Just like their PTSD is not us personally. Yeah, and in the cases, and after a while, when another diagnosis comes, you just handle it so much better than in the beginning. You do, because when you get diagnosis one, and even from the veteran's perspective, you get diagnosis one and you go through it, and you start to realize that those diagnoses are there. They still don't define you. Once you realize that diagnosis one didn't define you, diagnosis 12 isn't either. And that's a tough thing to swallow. But even for us, y'all, checking out is something we all do. I just want you to understand that it is okay to check out, just check back in. Sometimes you need to check out and just breathe for a minute. Sometimes you need to stop fighting because you can't always win the battles you're at. How many battles were won with the concept of retreating? The battle for this country was. You know, it wasn't all, yay, the colonists won every battle. Negative. People died, people starved. George Washington, who was credited with being one of the greatest leaders of our time, was a leader early on and did something really dumb, okay? Made a mistake, and they weren't even sure he was fit for duty, and he got beat up emotionally, and then he checked back in. There were times his troops were pinned down, and he checked back in. In Yorktown, where the battle ended for the Revolutionary War, those guys were trapped, and they had to take a deep breath. I mean, they are literally, you know, when you see a readout, and that's what they're called, where they're at. When you see the readout of the Americans and the readout of the British, they weren't any further apart than most people's houses, okay? And they are fighting that close to each other. And so there were times that both people had to go through this, right? And they would just go through this. Stuff would go on with them. But you had to retreat, regroup, and go forward. And that is what made George Washington the leader that he became. Because when there were problems, and when they were losing, and when they felt like there was no hope, there were times he had to retreat, back up, refuel, replenish, whatever, mentally adjust, because there wasn't a lot of food back then with everything going on. Mentally readjust and go forward. And that's where we have to get in our lives with everything, not just with our veteran, with us, with our veteran. Our veterans have to go there, and we have to understand it's okay for them to check out. They just have to check back in. I go and I look at that conversation we had with Mr. Jones, and it was phenomenal. The stories and the rawness was so open, and I respect him and I embrace him for that. And it is one of the same stories I heard over and over and over again on the streets of Savannah as a paramedic, that these guys checked out, or something happened that put them in a downward spiral, and they just went further and further down. The other gentleman that was sitting there with him, he talked to us partially on camera and partially off of camera. He lived with his daughter and their children, his grandchildren. And things became volatile because of the PTSD, the multiple families together. There were times that they were all like at each other, and he was literally ready to check out and go be homeless. And he had just recently had his leg amputated, and they got him into the tiny house where he is now awaiting, because that's transitional housing, something more permanent. So he too had checked out, but he actively checked in, so he wasn't 10 years like Mr. Jones was. And I think that all plays a role. And yes, perseverance is a learned trait. It is something that we have to understand is okay. Perseverance doesn't mean failure. Okay, that is a big issue. Perseverance doesn't mean failure. It means taking a time out and go. Stephanie was completely full. There's about 20 units that are there now. Their goal is to have 70 And like I said, they were precious. They were tiny. Now I'm not lying to you. Tiny houses were tiny. They had a bed, like a full size bed, and a little kitchenette, microwave, sink, little refrigerator, some cabinets, and a bathroom, and a little living space that was tiny living space. And they had cute little front porches, but they're building community center and all that stuff. And it was empowering to see these veterans that had come from nowhere. Yes, they accept donations, and I'll fill you in. Good. Nine Line Foundation. The Nine Line Foundation. They are phenomenal. Tyler Merritt, who was also a veteran, whose buddy got severely injured. This is how they started. So again, I'll tell you checking out versus not checking out. His buddy was severely injured, couldn't even live in a normal home at all, was depressed. I have a new Nine Line shirt on, I'll show you in a minute. He was depressed. He was ready to check out, and Tyler and them said, we're not going to do it. And they started out making t-shirts in their garage to try to help this guy. And within a few months, they built him a house in where he lives in North Carolina. And they did one house at a time, and then Tyler and the Nine Line Foundation realized they could do so much more if they built tiny houses. And there's a second one that the ground was just broke on going in Brunswick, Georgia, that will hold some more veterans in that area. So, but that's what I'm talking about checking out. He prevents people. Look at the number of people that this foundation and that this man, who was also suffered, his best friend was blown up in front of him. He also suffered. How many he checked back in? And when you check back in, you can do amazing things. When you check back in, you do way more than you did on the day that you check out. You know, and I don't think that Mr. Jones is going to realize how many people have seen his story, and there were a lot that have seen that video. People that have seen that story, and how many people's lives he's making a difference in. How many veterans are not going to check out? Absolutely. We'll take you there. You can even, Stephanie, if they're working on the houses, you can go volunteer for a few hours. It's phenomenal. Phenomenal. Um, but how many people checked out and don't check back in? And they did that. And they've taken these 20 or so people that are now living in these little community, and all of those people are checked back in. We talked to a woman who was going to visit a friend of hers who was there, and she said that he moved in right before Christmas, and that he had contemplated or done or committed or attempted to commit suicide multiple times until he got this. And now he is functioning, and he is getting ready to get it. You know, they work there. If they can work, they want them to work, and they encourage them to work, and they save up their money, and they help them manage their money, and then when they're done, they can get a house or whatever. That's what they treat them, is that help up to stay checked in. And so it is about staying checked in. It's about us staying checked in. It's about understanding that our veterans, depending on the veteran, need to check out sometimes. And we have to allow them to check out sometimes, but we also have to allow them to come back in. I know that Carl, there's days when a lot's going on in his head, whether it's a date or whether it's something at the house or whether it's whatever. He will tell me, I'd rather just go take my blanket and sleep in the woods for a few days. And he battles staying in the house with me rather than go check out and go to the woods. Yeah, they literally have their own space. It is, Nikki, I can't even begin to tell you. And how much more that tiny house village has done, because when we went to the rescue mission downtown first, because I knew that, like, whatever the time period was, that they were getting ready to start checking them in. And we went by the Salvation Army, and it was the same thing. They have a certain check-in time. We will be praying for you, Stephanie. Bad dates are always tough. So I knew that they were checking, going to check into the homeless places, because I didn't know until I went to Savannah that when you get to the homeless, to the Salvation Army and the other mission, you literally have to check out every morning, take your belongings in your little bags, and most of them are really ratty looking Walmart bags, and you have to take everything you have with you. So everything you own is literally something you can carry at this point, and you have to check out, and then you have to get back in line to check back in. And these people do this day after day after day. And some of them miss the free meals that are given out in Savannah because they're standing in line. And that community has become so overpowering about, helping, giving each other a helping hand. Even the homeless community giving each other a helping hand, that one guy will stand in line and the other guy will go get food, and he'll spend the night on the street, and then the next day they switch. So every other night somebody is staying in the facility and somebody else is getting them food. So that is, when you look at the most primal, when you think about homeless, y'all, they have nothing but what's in their little bags. Um, what's in their bags. And they tend to form this sense of community to help each other. It is really amazing. I was enthralled because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna go down to the homeless camp and here and that, and some of the homeless camps, they do have drugs in them. I'm not gonna lie to you, that's not a secret. But they can't get their medication any other way, so we're going through that. But they can't get it any other way. But these places are like little perfect functioning worlds where they help each other. And so that's what I'm talking about, checking out. Sometimes we have to check out. Sometimes you have to check out. Sometimes I have to check out. Sometimes our veterans have to check out. The difference is how quick can you check back in. And you can't let the checkouts define you. Okay. You can't let the checkouts define you. You know that your veteran's going to have bad dates over the next 2 weeks. You're going to struggle in your house the next 2 weeks. We know that. That's not a secret. Veteran spouses have learned that the word date means let's get prepared for anything kind of day, okay? When dates come up, you have to kind of keep that in mind, because it's like, be prepared for anything coming along day. But because you know that, you allow them a little more grace to check out and kind of deal with what's going on, because we can't fix what's in their head. We can't. We can sit there beside them. We can walk through the journey with them. But some of that journey they have to walk through on their own. You can take them to it's like a marathon. I can't run a marathon for somebody else. I can take you to the starting line, but I can't run it for you. I can be there along the way and cheer you on, but I can't run it for you. And the only way you're going to finish is if you don't check out. So it is important that we understand it's okay to check out, as long as we don't get to this part that we are so permanently checking out that we end up becoming one of the 22 a day. And I don't know if you can see my shirt if I say that, but I will try. So my new 9-line shirt, 22 a day, Veterans Lives Matter, came from 9-line. I had to share that because I just thought it was amazing. My people, they amaze me. I love Tyler stories. So that's my new 9-line shirt. I got 9-line and Black Rifle coffee. My day was about perfect till Carl took me to the beach and it got more perfect. It was just a great day. But we literally checked out. I checked out from the computer. I checked out from work. I checked out from research. We checked out from the dogs. We literally just spent a day doing us. I mean, granted, we did a lot more, but we spent a day doing us. And you have to do that. You have to allow that. You have to be able to do that, because that's how you check back in. It's important that we understand that. It's important that we understand checking out and checking back in. Nobody wants to get more letters to your alphabet soup. Nobody wants to deal with more letters to your alphabet soup, whatever your alphabet is. And we have them, whether we're sick or not. We all have our alphabet soup. But when you determine what your alphabet soup is made of, you can then figure out how to feed the crap to the dog, because alphabet soup's like the worst thing ever. I'm just saying. Feed the crap to the dog and move on. But you have to accept, you have to be able to check out and check back in. there's like 5 stages of grief that people go through during a loss, or when they're told they're going to lose. There's denial, and there's anger, and there's acceptance, and there's putting the blame, and there's finishing stuff up. Our goal is always to get to acceptance. That's always our goal. I have to accept that my life with Carl is not normal. Okay? It's not normal. But my life with Carl is full. And that is something I had to learn to accept. My life was not normal. My personal life is not normal, but my personal life has become full. And there is a big difference when you start thinking about that aspect. Don't check out. Be there for your veteran when he does check out. Understand that it happens. Understand that we are not handing out. When we help them, it is not a handout. It is not pity. It is a hand up. And there are days that we think, and we have to be careful, because we tend to get in this mindset of, I do this and I do that for you, and I do this and I do that, and you don't do anything, and you don't do this and you don't do that, and then it becomes pity and not a hand up. So be careful. That's all I'm going to say on that. We'll probably talk about that tomorrow. The difference between a hand up and a hand out. But don't check out. And when you do, well, you can check out. Just make sure you check back in. That's the important part. We can all regroup and check back in. And it is so, as Stephanie said, needed. Nakia has said this before. It's all in here. Self-preservation. You have to be able to do that. You look at somebody who is as sick as Richard is at times, and she still has a caregiver who comes, and Nakia checks herself out and goes kayaking or rides her bike because she has to. And one more thing while I'm on this. Nakia, you're going to have to turn this up real loud for Richard. Would you please tell Richard we all said, welcome home. And we are grateful for his service. And as a Vietnam veteran, we never, as a country, should have treated them the way we have. So welcome home, Richard. Y'all have a blessed day. Oh, wait, Sarah got this big long comment. The checking out I grew up with is nothing compared to this. People all around me checked out. I've always been angry at people for checking out, but their checkout was drugs. The checking out for me personally comes hard because growing up with people, it does. You have to take breaks for you. Sarah, you have to. I've always been the fixer. I've always been the enabler. I've always done the whatever. But it is important that we understand that. And today, ladies and gentlemen, if gentlemen are on here, is Vietnam Veteran Memorial Day, for those of you who do not know. So it is really important that we let our veterans know, Vietnam era veterans, how much we love and appreciate them. But that's what today is. So I'm off of here now. We're going to have a full day. Sarah, will you reach out to me? I have something I want to ask you if you will do. And Stephanie, we'll talk, because I definitely think taking the kids is going to be freaking amazing. Amazing. To go to there. And there's some other places we can go with the kids, because I just think that letting them see that the other world, it exists, is huge. All right, I'm Stacy. This has been Walking in My Shoes, and we are loving my veteran. Y'all have a blessed day, a great Monday, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.